Hey there. If you check the Paul Wade Wilson YouTube channel, if you ever happen to do that, then you know that yesterday, actually day before yesterday, June 3rd, I released another one of Pap's songs on there called For My Change I Await. So as I've done with the last few of those releases, I thought I would do a little video about the song, a little background, and it would probably actually get more plays or listens or whatever you want to call it here on the Blind Pig channel than it would there anyway. So that's why I'm doing this. Found a really nice place, nice spot I think to shoot this video, although it may be a little hard to hear me over the creek running, and I may be lucky to get out of here without a little poison oak, but it's a nice cool spot, real pretty spot to shoot this video. I look like I just walked off the tennis court. I didn't really. It's pretty warm here, and sometimes this wick-away clothing is just the most comfortable thing to wear when it gets hot like this. When I was thinking about shooting this video, I thought, you know, maybe I might be lucky and find the lyrics written down somewhere, kind of like with that Shine On Me video. It was either Shine On Me or the Sinless one. One of the last two videos, I found a neat little list of where Pap had written out some song titles of his, and so I thought maybe I'll get lucky, but probably not. And then I was really surprised. I went into the old original case for the Gibson Dove, which I really need to get out here in the sunlight and clean because it's severely mildewed. But inside there I found a whole big stack of pages. Some of them are just set lists like this, but some of them are lyrics written down. And so I did find the lyrics for My Change I Await, and you're not going to be able to see them if I hold them up, so I'll just cut to that somewhere in this video. Unlike the other lists that I found, it's much harder to read because it's written in pencil. It's very light, and who knows how old that piece of paper is. This song was probably written in the early 70s. I know that it already existed long before I came along, and Pap and I used to try to sing it some, and we always just sang the first two verses. But if you look on this channel, you can find him and his brothers doing the song, and they have three verses. There's Corey driving by, which Pap and I usually didn't sing. And this recording of me and Pap, it's fairly old. It's about 20 years old or so, and it was on an old ADAT recorder, and I managed to get it off onto my Alesis hard disk 24 recorder that I use. I redid my vocal because it was badly off key throughout, and one of the neatest things about the experience of releasing this song was I went back and redid that vocal. Of course, Pap was not here to redo his vocal, so I had to just kind of keep the vocal that he had. When I put on the headphones and redid my vocal, I didn't have him where I could hear him. I just did it by myself and then played it back, and it was really neat how well the two harmonized. And when we recorded it the first time, like I said, that was about 20 years ago, so I was in my 20s, and I'm not that I'm a great singer now by any stretch, but I definitely wasn't back then, and I struggled a lot more with pitch, and so most of my singing throughout that song was off key. The really neat, surprising thing, when I redid mine, I thought, well, Pap had to sing with me back then. He would have put on headphones and he would have sang his harmony with me. And since I was off, he would have to be off. Kind of like if a carpenter, if somebody puts a chalk line down and the chalk line is not straight, or something's out of square or not level, and they build to that, then what they do is also going to be, it's not going to be straight. If the chalk line is kind of crooked, then the shingles or whatever it is you're doing to that chalk line is going to be crooked. So that's what I expected with Pap's vocal. And then to my surprise, somehow his harmony vocal was not off key, or out of key, or out of pitch, which I still don't understand how that's possible. How he sang correctly while I sang incorrectly. And almost perfectly. Now there was one note I should say, in every verse and every chorus of his harmony that was off. And again, that's because I was off. And that one place, he kind of had no choice but to do something that was incorrect. So I downloaded a program called Melodyne, because again, Pap's not here, so he couldn't go back and correct that after I'd corrected mine. I played around with that Melodyne program, which is a pitch correction program. And the place where that note happens, for it to be correct, it kind of has to be two notes. It's one word, but it kind of has to be two notes where it starts at one pitch and then in the middle of the word drops down, kind of like a la la, la la. It kind of had to be, not that it's anywhere near that pitch of what I just did, but I'm just trying to illustrate it has to be a kind of a step down sort of thing to be correct. I watched YouTube videos. I'd never really used that program. I should have been able to split his word, divide it in half, and I might even cut to kind of a video of what that would look like, or maybe a screenshot of what that would look like. But when you're using Melodyne, each note looks like a little, like an orange blob. And then you can take your cursor, your tool, and cut it and do that however you want to do it. You can stretch it. You can basically you can manipulate any note any way that you want. I tried that quite a few times and I never was successful. Never got it pitched right, never made it sound right. Thought about looking on a website called Fiverr. If you're not familiar with Fiverr, Fiverr is a place where you can hire people to do almost anything. Draw you a picture, take a picture, make a video, sing a song, write a song for you, make a commercial. I mean, you can just hire them to do any number of things, and quite cheaply, sometimes for only $5. That's why the site is called Fiverr. And I'm sure there are plenty of people on Fiverr who are who are at the expert level with Melodyne, and I could have sent that to them and they could have accomplished that. Might have taken a little trial and error, like I would get it back and then put it with my vocal and did it sound right or not. And right about that time it struck me, because I was older now, 20-something years older than when I originally recorded my vocal. When I redid my vocal, it really struck me how much Pap and I sounded alike in this song. Very, very much alike. So then, for curiosity, I thought, what if I sang that one note of harmony? And that's what I wound up doing. And I think it's pretty seamless. In fact, I think if I had not have mentioned it in this video, I don't think any of you could have even been able to tell that there's one note in every verse and chorus where Pap is not singing the harmony, I'm singing the harmony. So I'll put it out there, and I mean say it, kind of put it out there by saying it, and I'll leave this video up for a week or two, and you comment in the comment section if you think you can tell the one note in every song. It's technically two notes, it'd be one word, two notes in every song, every verse or chorus where I'm actually singing the harmony with myself. There are places that even I don't think would have been able to tell it, because our voices just sound that much alike. And the older I get, the more my voice sounds like his. Just like the older I get, I guess I start to look more like him. But anyway, I thought that was kind of neat. So I didn't use any pitch correction. Just went back and sang that note or two notes, depending on how you look at it, myself. Corey, I let Corey of the Presley Girls hear it. She just thought it was Pap the entire time. She couldn't tell that there was those little moments where I actually sang the harmony. Of course, none of that would have been necessary if Pap was still here, but of course he's gone on to be with the Lord and to do his singing in a better land, and we'll join him one day. But anyway, I just wanted to share that. That was kind of neat for me in two ways. One, how on earth was his harmony correct in all those other places, even though I was incorrect? How did he sing correctly pitched harmony with incorrectly pitched lead? I don't know. That part was neat. And then it was neat that I was able to correct that one little place by supplying it myself. I will add that that's the second time, and I would never experience it. I wouldn't expect to experience it any other time. It just somehow worked out those two times. That is the second time that I went back and redid a vocal, a lead vocal that I knew was off pitch or out of key kind of, and then found his harmony to still somehow be correct. The other song is called Let Me Live for God, and that will be the next one that I release. And it was also recorded when Pap was still alive, so Pap is on it. It wasn't 20 years ago, it was actually a matter of months before he passed. Even though that's a very old song, I won't get into too much about that song because I'll do a video about that song when I go to release it. But I found the same thing. When I went back and corrected or fixed my vocal, his was somehow already right. And that's a hard thing for me to understand, how he sang the harmony hearing incorrect lead, but got his harmony correct. But he'd been doing it for a while, so I guess that's something you get where you can do. Looking through these, I found that song that I just mentioned, Let Me Live for God. I found it written down, so I'll be able to show that in that video. Some of these others, put on my glasses here. I found the lyrics for Be Not Afraid. That's a great song that he wrote. And it's funny that he wrote this on the back of all kinds of things. This is something he probably got when he was discharged from the hospital following heart surgery, and it is a list of recommended foods, things to eat, things not to eat. You know, no fried foods, a lot of fruit, rice, stuff like that, which he never followed at all whatsoever. He never changed one single thing about his diet. He just ate what he wanted to eat. But that Be Not Afraid is on the back of that. And another neat thing, if you watch the last video that I did, or one of the last videos that I did about Pap's songs, I came across about 5 titles where I do not know the song. Like I say, 95% of his songs, I know them, I can sing them, I know the tunes, the melody, I know the words. But I came across about 5 that I have no idea. And I think I remember somebody commented, "Oh, Paul, you might find that, you know, keep looking." And I was like, no, I won't. No, it's just gone, it's just lost. Well, one of those songs, the title was Let Your Light So Shine, and son of a gun, there it is. Let Your Light So Shine. And there's a lot of words to it. It's a full page of lyrics. I have no idea of the melody, so what I would have to do one day, maybe, Lord willing, I would just have to make up a melody to that song. So it's half lost now. I thought it was completely lost, but it's half lost. The tune is lost, which is a shame because he could always come up with great original tunes. He would amaze me in that regard. But there's the lyrics. So maybe one day you'll hear me sing Let Your Light So Shine. I don't know. Looking on the back of this, there's a song that I do know, If We Neglect So Great Salvation, which is not really the title, it's just a line. If I'm not careful, I'll get into too much detail about each song. Now, another title in that video that I read off that I said, I don't know that song, was Let Jesus Come In. Son of a gun, there it is. It's above Let's Pray, which I do know that song. I have a recording of him and his brother Ray singing that song. But I don't know Let Jesus Come In. It's a lot shorter, apparently. Maybe that means it's a fast song. I don't know. But maybe I can one day come up with a melody for Let Jesus Come In. Temptation is great. That'll be on this project that I'm about to release. Thank you. I thank you, Lord, for saving me. That's not really the title of that song, but I do know that song. We used to call it the boat song. He and his brother Ray did sing that. It's kind of a narrative song. It tells a story about a little boy who let a boat go, and it makes that analogy to God making us, and then just like the boat became lost, we became lost, and he had to save us. Now Pap didn't invent that analogy. That's a really old analogy that goes way, way back. And you can find out more about that, I think, on the Blind Pig and the Acorn blog. Not sure what you would search for. Probably Now I Twice Belong to Thee, which is the true title of Pap's song, but he did not invent the analogy. He learned it from his dad, who was a Baptist minister, and Papa, my grandfather, he would have learned it from somewhere else. I think it might have actually first appeared in Australia. But look at it on that blog, Google it, and maybe you can find out more about that boat analogy, comparing mankind to a lost boat. That's just a set list. On the back is the song I was just talking about. You'll Miss Heaven Most of All. I do know that song. He recorded that with his sister. We Just Won't Let God Take Command. I know that one. He recorded that with his brother on an album called I Believe in God. They did a good job on that song. There's also an much older version with the brother Henry playing electric guitar that you can find on this channel. And Henry hits a really neat kind of haunting run on that electric guitar, that Gretsch, if you can find that. That's another song where Pap had different melodies. So when they recorded it way back on the reel-to-reel with brother Ray, or Henry playing lead, they had a different melody than when he recorded it with just Ray and some flat-top acoustic guitars. I'm also playing on that recording, I think. I'm playing a flat-top. And I think that somewhere on this channel you might be able to find a video of me and Katie, of the Presley Girls, singing that. I won't flip through all of these, but I mainly wanted to share that I was able to find the lyrics for My Change I Await, and then I found lyrics for some of these songs that I don't know. Here's one. This is kind of neat. We've Almost Forgotten God, which is the first song on the 1973 Words of Life album. You can hear that on this channel. But anyway, there's For My Change I Wait. I'm going to pull it out. There's What Kind of Friend Has He in You, which will also be on this project. Kind of jumping around. Some of these are typed, which is kind of neat. See if you can see that. Pap couldn't type, but my mom could type. She was trained in those kinds of things. She could write in shorthand, and so she typed some of these lyrics out for Pap. That would have been typed out before I was even born, so that's a very old piece of paper. And yeah, this is just a great little find. All these lyric sheets. Some of them, like I said, are just set lists, but I'm going to pull this For My Change I Await out. I need to take this old paper clip off here because that's going to rust and cause problems. It already has on some of these sheets. You can see it's kind of stained there and on the side. Now I mentioned that Pap and I, we only sang 2 verses, but he and Ray sang a 3rd verse. So when Pap and I made that recording, which I've now kind of updated, I mentioned I redid the lead vocal on it. I also redid the lead guitar. I'm going to grab my guitar in just a second and show you a few things about that picking, kind of what Pap did and what I did. But that last verse is on here. And it says, so then, no, that's part of the first verse. That last verse says, but there's hope of a tree if it be cut down. It will sprout again from beneath the ground. Now, Pap and I never sang that, but sort of like with the other things that I was able to improve and update with the amazing level of technology that we have now, I was able to go back and sing that last verse by myself. And I decided, as you'll hear when we get to the end of this video, and I finally shut up blabbing, I decided to tack it on almost like a postscript and let the song end, everything fade out, last guitar note fade out, and then I sing that last verse. Sort of like that whole phoenix rising, just like the words say, hey, you thought it was over, but here it comes again. Life is coming again from beneath the ground. Anyway, that's what I was shooting for with tacking that on at the end. I will mention that Pap and I recorded that, as I said, on that ADAT. So we recorded that 48 kilohertz, or whatever you want to call it. The sample rate was 48. Whereas most of the things I record now are at 96. And that's the number of times that the recorder and player samples the sound within a second. So 48,000 times per second as opposed to 96,000 times per second. So the way I record now, the quality is twice as much as what it was when Pap and I made that ADAT recording. But in order to get it to match the little postscript that I recorded, I had to also record that at the 48 rate. Somehow, even though it's also recorded at 48, you can be the judge and see when you listen to it. I think it's a better quality. The part that comes on, that final verse that I sing by myself, somehow to me it just sounds like a better quality than the other. But they're all okay. All the parts of that, they're okay. Of course, whether it's 48 or 96, to become a CD, it has to come down to 44.1. That's what the sample rate is of a CD, is 44.1. So 44,000.1, I don't know what the .1 would come out to be, times per second. Where was I going with all that? I'll say a little bit more about how I recorded that. I was trying to give it more of an ethereal, open sound, because again, it's this postscript. It's sort of like a spiritual kind of moment. Instead of setting up one guitar mic and one vocal mic, I set up two guitar mics, identical Shure guitar mics, aimed sort of like this at the dove to give that that stereo sound, more like your two ears if you were just standing there listening to the guitar. And I set up one vocal mic, but instead of doing the usual unidirectional mic, I used an omnidirectional mic like you would use. If you ever see any bluegrass bands play live and they all gather around one mic, it's an omnidirectional mic that's kind of picking up all around it rather than just one direction. Like the mic in this camera only is picking up one direction. If I get off center, it's not going to pick me up as well. But anyway, so I had those three mics. I played the dove just with my fingers and just kind of softly sang that last verse. And I was pretty pleased with how it turned out. I know it would have been better if I could have recorded it at 96 sample rate rather than 48, but it did have a little bit more of an ethereal sound to it than the part that Pap and I sang together. So you can comment on that too. You know, what do you think about that? Should I just have left it with what Pap and I did together, just those two verses and choruses, and then stop? Or do you like that is tacked on as a postscript? Let me know what you think. A general update on this whole project. It seems like I commented once before that I had about 4 or 5 more songs to go of Pap's. Well, I got to thinking, it already has 27 songs on it, and that's original songs by him, one original song by me about him called A Wonder or Hiawassee. There's a video about that song on here and how it came to me in a dream and all that good stuff. And 5 hymns that he did not write, just classic hymns that he sang with just one guitar, no other music. that will be on this project too. So I got to thinking, hey, if this makes 27 songs, I probably should check into how many songs can you fit on a CD, or how many minutes. So a CD will hold 74 minutes of music, or of anything, talking, whatever. So I took all the lengths of the songs that I've done so far, and I added them up, and then I discovered, uh-oh, I won't be putting 4 or 5 more songs on here. I only have room for 1 more song. So that was kind of good news in one way. I don't want to do a 2 CD project. I can't record all of Pap's songs anyway. There's too many of them. So I thought I'm just going to do 1 more that will fill up the CD, and then this project will be done. So I am nearing the light at the end of the tunnel. It should never have taken me this long. I've been working on this project since 2016. Here it is 2022. But sometime before 2023, it should be finished. And then anybody who wants to buy it can buy it. It's not about, the money part. But anyway, so I'm excited about that it's almost finished. And those other 4 or 5, I thought about recording them too, and then picking and choosing, since there would be too many songs on there, but I couldn't bring myself to do that. Even if some of them turned out better than some of the ones that I've already recorded, I wouldn't really want to cull any of those. So I'll just save those for another project one day. Tipper, who has the Celebrating Appalachia YouTube channel, go check that out. My sister Tipper, and of course she has the Blind Pig and the Acorn blog that she's been doing now for over 10 years. We have talked about doing a Blind Pig and the Acorn recording, so maybe I'd put those songs that I had thought about or planned to put on this project, maybe I'll put them on that project, or maybe I'll do a whole nother project of Pap's original gospel songs. Who knows? We'll see. Lord willing, we'll see. I'm almost finished yapping. I'm going to grab the flat top real quick, which I should have had in my hands to begin with, and I'll show you a couple of things about how I did things in this song, and so I'll be right back. So Pap and I did the song in G. His brother Ray, they also did the song in G. There's only 3 chords. There's G, D, C. This is a song that I would call a call and response song. Pap starts. He says a line, sings a line. Then I sing a line in response to that, and then we sing together. And that's the same way that he and his brother did. His brother Henry played the breaks and kickoff and everything like that. Very, very different, completely different than I do. He kind of had a thing that was like, or maybe it was more like, that's kind of what he played. Of course, he was all over the neck. He was a much more advanced guitar player than me. What I played, Pap kind of came up with, and he would start it. So you'll hear this in our recording of it. He would go with the rhythm guitar. He would start it by going to D. That's kind of how he would start it. So when he would go, I would go. And then I came up with this little odd thing. Even slowed down, I missed it. Of course, it's a lot faster in the song. Now, as I said, I was in my 20s when we recorded that, and I did this little thing in the middle, which I probably wouldn't do nowadays. I don't know how to explain it, but when I was younger, I had I don't know if you'd call it flashier style, or an attempt to be flashier. I probably wouldn't have done that now. It's a little, I don't know, hokey, but and I decided to just leave it like it was, redo it, where I picked it a little bit better and had a little better recording level on the guitar. I also redid the rhythm guitar and didn't like it and went back to the original rhythm guitar that was on there. That's just a tiny little blurb about that. The last thing that I'll say is probably the most important thing, and it's about the meaning of this song. I always liked this song from the first time when I was little. When I heard it, something about it, it could have been the melody and the call and response, but then the lyrics too, something about it to me always had almost a mysterious feeling to it. It's talking about rivers, you know, stones in the river. It's talking about wasting away. It's talking about your spirit and where does it go. And I always liked that aspect of it. Until recently, I would say until within the last month, I always assumed Pap took his songs, of course, he based his songs directly on the Bible, always. And his favorite writer in the Bible, his favorite speaker, character in the Bible, other than Jesus, was the Apostle Paul. That's probably why my first name is Paul. That was his person he really looked up to philosophically. So I always assumed that this song probably came from the writings of Paul. I had even intimated as much to other people when they would say, hey, where do you think your dad came up with that song? I'd say, well, it's probably out of Romans or Corinthians or, you know, something like that. And Corey Presley, when she was listening to the song, she asked me, and I said, well, I think Paul is the one who said, "For my change I await." And we Googled it, and I got a big surprise that this song has nothing to do with Paul. This song comes directly from the 14th chapter of Job. If you'll read the 14th chapter of Job, verses 1 through 19, you'll see where everything in this song comes from, including the part about the tree being hewn down or cut down. It's almost like singing the 14th chapter of Job. And that was really cool to discover that or see that. I mean, I shouldn't have assumed, but it was just a neat little aha after re-recording it or remixing it or getting it ready to share with everybody. It was so cool to just sort of uncover, here's the source, here's exactly where that came from. And I started watching more videos of different pastors and preachers, you know, commenting on Job. And one pastor, I can't remember who, or one online preacher that I saw, he described the 14th chapter of Job as Job's musings. Nothing about, you know, your musings, it's like your thoughts, your ponderings. And I can really see that that's what Job is doing. He's asking these questions. He knows the answer, but he's asking these questions. Where does a man's soul go? What happens? And so that's what this song does in the verses. And in the chorus, it's uplifting. But when a man dies, then shall he someday awake. And that's just why I love this song. It's one of my favorites of Pap's. It brings a good balance to the project because most of the songs are not fast tempo songs. This is a fast tempo song. It's a little closer to the bluegrass type of song than most of his songs. It's something that I think a good bluegrass band could really polish up and make into a slick, fast-moving kind of song. But it's really, for me, it's all about the meaning of the song, especially now that Pap has passed. Because in my mind, of course, I'm applying all this that he wrote and that we sang about him, and about myself too, and all my family and friends. But I just wanted to share that real quickly about the song. And while I was yammering there, I thought of one more thing, if I can think of it, that I will share before you hear the song. As always, I had to come up with a picture. You can't upload anything to CD Baby or these platforms without an icon or a picture. It would be simple if you were doing one album, you'd just have one picture, but because I'm doing all these singles, each time I have to come up with a picture. And as I've said before, I'm not a good photographer. I don't really have time to do that. This is one of the few that I did take this picture, and I tried to think, what could I make the picture about? So I just chose to make it about the idea of stones in the river by the waters are worn. And I actually got in this creek right behind me and took this picture, and I tried to make it a GIF, or a GIF, however you say that. If you're familiar with that, it's a picture that's almost like a short video where there's a little bit of movement, maybe like 1 to 2 seconds, 1 to 3 seconds, I don't know. And CD Baby said they would accept a GIF. That's a file type they would accept. So I shot it that way, and I pulled those rocks in my hand up out of a little waterfall in the creek, and I took the picture with my iPhone. So that's what it originally was my hand emerging with the rocks. And then I found out that the iPhone doesn't really make it a GIF, it makes it a live photo, which is a different format. And I downloaded a program and converted it, but then it wasn't the high enough quality because CD Baby is so particular about the resolution and the picture size, because it's going to be a little tiny icon. So it all wound up being just a JPEG, just a still image of the rocks in my hand. Something neat about those rocks, the rocks that are in my hand, they were not worn by the creek. They could have been. I could have found around, searched around and found some little rounded stones that had been kind of being tossed around in the creek over time and rounded. Those stones, those particular stones, were smooth and worn by a glacier. And a pastor named Chris Matheson, he's the pastor of our local church here, one of our local churches, New Martins Creek Baptist Church, which is where I was saved. I'm a member of that church. He gave me those stones. He came and spoke to our FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, at Martins Creek School, where I'm the principal. And he brought those stones back from out west, and he gave each student one of those stones. He had gone out, it's kind of a neat story, and this camera may shut off on me. He'd gone out to help a gentleman who had sort of become stranded out there with some equipment, big, heavy equipment, and he had no way to get it back here, and he needed that equipment for his work. It was going to be a real financial hardship or almost crisis for his family. And Pastor Chris Matheson, he went out there with a truck and a trailer that really were not big enough to do that kind of job, but he believes that the Lord helped him and helped all along the way, and they were able to get that equipment back here. And he picked up those stones. He said they were lying everywhere. I don't know if it was somebody who lived there, some geologist, who it was, but somebody told him that those were glacier stones, and they had been smoothed many, many, many years ago by a big glacier that came through there. And Chris had told me, he gave me what was left. He gave one to each kid, and then he gave me a little Ziploc bag of stones, which I still have. And if you watch the Presley Girl channel or the Celebrating Appalachia channel, you know that Katie Presley is a rock hound. She does all this amazing jewelry making with stones. So I may eventually give her those stones, but I held on to them. And Chris had told me that for whatever reason, when the stones are wet, they're much prettier. Now that would be true of most rocks, probably about any rock. But those stones all look just kind of gray until I put them in the creek. And when I pulled them out to take that picture, you'll see that one looks kind of purple. One is like a unique sort of mauve color, maybe, or beige. Anyway, I saw that he was right. When I pulled them out of the creek, I was like, wow, they are kind of pretty. And I think his wife told me that she keeps hers in a little jar of water so that it always looks that colorful way. But when you watch the video of the song, or the part of this video that is the song, and you see the picture, there's a little bit of a background about not only the picture, where it was taken, who took it, but where the rocks came from. Thank you for listening to all this. I hope you enjoy this song. I hope you find meaning in it. And when the project is finally finished, I have one more song to record, which is going to be a song, my favorite song of Pap's actually, if I had to pick one. It's called Beyond This Veil of Tears. When I finish that one, that'll be the last song. There's also a song that's already been recorded that just has to be mixed of his called Hell to Shun. Corey Presley and I sang that together. That'll be on there. And then there's the other one, Let Me Live for God. which Pap and I recorded just a couple of months before he passed, even though he wrote the song probably in the late 60s. But those three and this song, For My Change I Awake, will be on there, and they will finish out the project.
I know man's life is but a few days, and filled with strife every step of the way. His body has pain that seems not to cease. His soul mourns within, there's no lasting peace. But when man dies, then shall he someday awake. All the days of my life, for my change I await. As stones in the river, by the waters are worn, time wears man's life from the day he is born. So then man will die, his spirit will flee, he wasteth away, then where shall he be? But when man dies, then shall he someday awake. All the days of my life, for my change I await. But there's hope of a tree, though it be hewn down, it will rise again from